If you love Arizona Highways magazine, then no matter where in the world you live, you are an Arizonan. And this show is for you.
Arizona highways, pages filled with dreams, that ever-fantastical, magical magazine. Across the miles to my way, Arizona seems that ever-fantastical, magical magazine. Reaching people in countries beyond this land, teaching people to know what it's worth to have heaven on earth in your hand.
I'm Dolan Ellis. Well, you know, I'm the happiest when I'm singing about Arizona and sharing its wonders through the pages of the world's most beautiful magazine, Arizona Highways. And I think I'm in pretty good company with our Senator, Barry Goldwater.
I love all of Arizona, and I can get in my car and just say, well, let's see where we're going today, and you don't give a darn where you go. You wind up someplace, it looks pretty. I used to just throw a bedroll out and go to bed.
And our governor, Bruce Babbitt.
And the challenge is to see if we can't preserve the very things that brought us here in the first place, so that others, including our own children, will have that experience.
To know what it's worth to have heaven on earth in your hands.
Come along with us down some highways which for 6 decades have taken the beauty of Arizona to the eyes of the world. The Arizona Highways.
Ever-fantastical, magical magazine.
I think my first picture was contributed in 1937. I was down having a couple of steins of beer at the old, it was either the A1 brewer or the Apache brewer, I forget which it was then. And the first editor of the magazine was there having one with me, and he said, by the way, you take pictures. Do you have anything that you think we might use? I said, yes, I've got a couple of pretty good pictures of Coal Mine Canyon up between, up past Moenkopi. So I sent them to him, and those were the first pictures I ever submitted back in 1937.
Ever-fantastical, magical magazine. It's a song of spring that my heart does sing, and I'd like to teach it to you, so that when you've gone, you can have my song, and your heart can sing it too.
But there's a magic about the springtime of the Sonoran Desert that just doesn't exist in other places. It's the miracle that it even happens at all that makes it so fantastic.
The natural first reaction of a person who comes to a place like this is, I want to buy it. I want to own it and then build a fence around it and improve it and keep other people out. It's an understandable reaction, but it's really not the right one. I think that you really come to understand this country in the West when you come to a place like this and say, I want to understand it. I want to pass through here, understand it deeply, and not possess it, but understand that this is part of our common heritage, that this outdoors, this wilderness is really a public resource.
That my heart does sing, How I
One day
hope
the
you're
Lord just
able
cut
to
about 113 square miles out of heaven and let it drop on
every
earth.
note you hear
And we
is
call it
distinct
Arizona.
and clear, but the listening's up to you. Yes, the listening's up to you. Well, they call him a redneck from Payson, Arizona. They call him a kicker with a mind as narrow as a loading chute. He chews on a toothpick as he stands on the corner in his Bailey you roll it hat and his Tony Llama boots. Well, at 12 years old he was busting broncs. 16 he was a man. At 18 he could run that ranch as good as his daddy can, almost. The kids in town learn to hang around the beer and the hot dog stands, while he's learned his worth of his space on earth, and he's known as a hell of a man.
You don't learn to be a cowboy. You're born a cowboy. You can't come out here from someplace else and say, I'm going to be a cowboy. You just can't do it. It's something you have to learn before you're 3, I think.
The cowboys, from Gary Cooper to John Wayne, throughout Arizona, a symbol of the individual, the transcendence of the achievement of an individual prevailing in the face of first Indians and now government.
He chews on a toothpick and stands on the corner in his Bailey you roll it hat and his Tony Llama boots. Says the wind.
I was born and raised around the maple trees of eastern Kansas, and so I know autumn. But there are places in Arizona where autumn moves me just as much as it does back in the Midwest or in the East. In the beautiful Oak Creek Canyon, the vines turn yellow, and we have the hard maples in there that are red. The sumac or the sumac turns its crimson color, and all of the grasses that were green last summer turn into their seed pods and stalks, and there is a certain brooding sort of feel. And it may...
I think the most difficult question that we have to face as Westerners is whether or not we have the capacity and the willpower to preserve this environment, this landscape, to preserve the very values that brought people here in the first place. If we destroy them, we've destroyed a part of ourselves.
This old town has gone to seed and stands beyond its time. Its people scattered to the winds have left this place behind. All but one have moved their roots to some other fertile ground. Well, that's all but Brother McIntyre, and he's a keeper of the town. He's a keeper of the town.
I think that the importance of the pioneer experience is one that's very relevant today. What those folks did was pulled up stakes, came here and took chances, worked, sacrificed, suffered in the face of a lot of uncertainty because they really felt that the future was important, that they could, by leaving the past, by cutting their roots, make a future that was important. And it's really what makes Arizona today. It's a certain spirit of the future, of the work ethic, of change, of risk-taking, that really is the direct outgrowth, the lineal descendant of that pioneer experience.
My grandfather came to the junction of the Gila River and the Colorado River in 1860. He was always looking for gold, but he didn't find any.
Well, like a weed that's dried, this town has died.
Of course, the city of Prescott naturally is a favorite spot of mine because I've always looked at it as my family's home. The Goldwaters lived in Prescott from around 1870. Well, not constantly, but off and on almost all the years since.
We all gonna rise and sing once more. We're the people of this town. We're the people of this town. This old town has grown to seed, stands beyond its time. It's a people scattered to the winds, have left this place behind. All but one have moved their roots to some other fertile ground. Hey, that's all but Brother McIntyre, and he's a keeper of the town. He's a keeper of the town. Woo! He's the keeper, well, he's the keeper of the town.
That ever-fantastical magical magazine will return.
Sing a song of a fairyland, winters in the canyon.
I suppose the image that I have of the North is the San Francisco Peaks, of walking through the streets of Flagstaff in the winter, watching the snowfall come down through the street lights, skiing, spending those long winter mornings and afternoons in the snow.
It's peaceful and all is well. It's winter time and snowing.
Little towns like Springerville, Show Low, McNary, the White River Indian Reservation. You get down to the San Carlos Indian Reservation. The beautiful highway that runs down to Clifton. It's a hard road to travel, but if you want a spectacular view of canyons and forest, just high country, low country, there's nothing better than that trail.
In the pantry now, it's winter time and snowing. Snow falls, God calls. It's winter time and snowing. There's a canyon in a valley.
I remember growing up in Flagstaff the summers, 4th of July, the powwow. There would be 5,000 to 10,000 Navajos and Hopis in town for those summer celebrations, and the winter nights out on the Hopi Reservation at the bean dances, which are still in some ways the most moving of all of the Indian ceremonies. Just the distance, the desolation, the extraordinary way in which those cultures have been preserved.
And the man looks down and he smiles on nature's children. She was 16, he less than 20. In the
I think we have a great deal to convey to the balance of this nation. One, I think, is the importance of pluralism, of ethnic diversity, of living in a land of many cultures. This state has got a lot of its charm and energy from the fact that it's such a tremendous blend of the Native American Indian past, of the vitality of the Hispanic Mexican culture, with the overlay of the pioneer and the Anglo.
Next of kin to the sun and the wind and clay.
You know, I think the best message to our kids that ever came out of Arizona came from a guy named Teddy Roosevelt, who used to spend a lot of time out here. I think the points he was really making were that we ought to raise our children in the out-of-doors so that they gain the sense of confidence and skill that comes from understanding nature, from confronting the out-of-doors.
When I was a boy, I used to have to go up and knock on the farmer's door, and I'd say, Farmer Brown, could I go hunting on your property? Could I go fishing on your pond? People ask me, say, Dolan, where can you camp in Arizona? I said, hey, anywhere you want to, as long as it's not posted or, you know, fire dangers or something. Because this is public land out here. It all belongs to us. I'm gonna throw away my briefcase and my tie. Gonna kiss this busy city life goodbye. I'm gonna leave all this confusion far behind. I got canyons, canyons on my mind.
I think the falls that come out of the east side of the canyon down the Tap Beach Trail that comes out of Big Saddle on the north rim. These falls flow right out of the solid wall. The temperature of the water is about 40 degrees, and it's possible to climb down to them from the north rim or climb up to them from the river, Colorado River. And they flow into Tapeats Creek. It's not easy walking, but it's a very rewarding walk. I think that's probably, to me, the most beautiful spot in Arizona.
I think if I had to pick one place in southern Arizona, it would be Aravaipa Canyon. It is really the most incongruous, extraordinary little place. It's right in the middle of the desert. There is a live stream that runs through. It's a canyon which literally cuts across the Galuro Mountains. It chops them in two. You get into these deep, deep box canyons with a flowing stream right there in the desert.
Canyons laying on my mind, there I go, with a far-off look and a little secret smile. Canyons,
Along the Mexican border is nothing but dry desert. And the old highway, they used to call it El Camino de los Diablos, the highway of the devil.
I remember the days on the trail, Camino del Diablo. 50 miles from last water as we pulled into old Tule Well.
And the only water that you had to drink along that route was in these so-called altas that the water from rains would collect in and stay. Many, many people died on that trip across southern Arizona.
The giant saguaro cactus is capable of going a year and a half without any additional moisture at all. And all of our plants and our animals have learned to do that. And I think that relates to the people who live in Arizona, too. I think an Arizonan is a survivor. Arizona is a person who wasn't quite satisfied where he was living someplace else, and he had the courage to uproot himself and his family, head out to a new city, and be able to cut out a new life for himself. Certain grittiness.
You can listen to him in the dust devil wind when he talks. Camino del Diablo.
Well, summertime in Arizona, people say, oh, it sure it gets awfully hot down here. And my answer to that is, yeah, but you don't have to shovel it.
Beautiful sunsets, beautiful
beautiful sky. Beautiful magic fills up my eyes. As we become more and more city dwellers, we are understanding less and less about the magic of nature. And as a songwriter and a person that does a lot of thinking about those things, that's one of my concerns. As we continue to become more intelligent people and more sophisticated people, I want to see us to save those sensitivity, that sensitivity that we have in us as human beings towards our planet. And I think Arizona Highways is a great input. It takes that city dweller and it puts nature in his hand, and it makes him think about, pause and think about those things for a few moments as he reads and looks. And that's a big role for the future. I think it's going to help keep our souls alive. Beautiful sunset, beautiful sky, beautiful sunset, beautiful sky.
I don't care where I go around this earth. I don't care where it is. You can think of the most out-of-the-way towns you've ever heard of, any place in this world. They'll say, oh, you're from Arizona. You know about Arizona highways. I found Arizona highways on display in Jerusalem, Cairo, in Taipei, in Australia, any place I go. I think that's the answer.
Reaching people.
One of the things that really made Arizona Highways magazine was a guy named Raymond Carlson and his love of the graphic arts.
To know what it's worth to have heaven on earth in your hand.
Ray Carlson was nothing in my mind but a darn good poet. I run into him in his station wagon out in the middle of no place. Just in park, there's his station wagon parked, and I'd get out, walk over to it, and there'd be old Ray sitting there sound asleep, or just sitting there. I'd say, what in the hell are you doing? Well, he says, I'm thinking about something. I'd leave him alone. And he worked like the devil like that and come up with a book that I've always called that Arizona Highways, a book of poetry. And I think that's the answer. I think Arizona, when you get down to it, is a poem.